Okay, the last topic in chapter 2, f to the negative 1 of x. To the negative 1 doesn't mean jump over fraction bar like to the negative 1 usually means. This is supposed to be pronounced f inverse of x. It's saying do the opposite of doing f. Okay, and here's an f, and this particular f multiplies in a 6. It takes whatever you got and it multiplies it by 6. That's everything it knows how to do. And I know what the opposite of multiplying by 6 is dividing by 6, because they basically cancel each other out. And that's what inverses do. So the way you do this, and I kind of wrote out all the rules, but y equals. So instead of having f inverse, that's clunky notation anyway, let's just use y right where the f of x is. So write y equals instead. And then switch out x and y. So now it says x equals 6y. They have just changed roles. And then divide by 6. So now it says x over 6 equals y, which is what I was saying. And the opposite of multiplying by 6 is dividing by 6. And this just does that. All right, now this is the answer. X over 6 is the answer. If you really, really want to, you can go in with some fancy notation afterwards. You could say f to the negative 1 of x. Okay, that's not the answer. That's just fancy notation. The answer was after you did that divide by 6. There's your answer there. Five x plus 2, right? Y equals. And then then switch out x and y. And then get y by itself. So x minus 2 over 5 equals y. And you can go with the fancy notation if you really want to. Okay, so what this says, the opposite of multiply by 5 and then add 2 is subtract 2 and then divide by 5, which sounds like a complete reversal. Okay, if you put on your socks and then put on your shoes, to undo that, you got to take off your shoes and then your socks in the other order. So you're going to have to subtract the 2 and then divide by 5. And that's what it says, and that is the opposite. So it makes perfect sense. You don't have to reason it through in words. You just have to follow along with all of this. One-third x minus 3. Write y equals. Okay, add 3 to both sides. And then multiply both sides by 3. So 3y plus 9 equals 3. I didn't switch out x and y. We'll do it here. 3x plus 9 equals y. And 3x plus 9 equals f inverse. I typed it out properly in the notes. All right, how about 3x squared plus 7? And this shows up every once in a while in a problem. You're doing the problem. Okay, I got the method. You'd write y equals, switch out x and y, solve. What is that doing over there? What am I supposed to do with x is greater than or equal to 0? And it usually has the words for the domain. And what you're supposed to do with it is just completely ignore it. Pretend that's not there. Let's just follow the instructions. Okay, I'm trying to get y by itself. Divide by 3. And here's where that is supposed to come in. You're supposed to go, wait, every time every time I take a square root, I'm supposed to write plus or minus. I'm about to need to take a square right here. And you're supposed to say to yourself, oh, but I'm not supposed to take plus or minus? And the answer is, well, yeah, you're supposed to. And this has got you covered. This is saying don't bother with the plus and minus. This is just going to be, just take the square root. Most people, if they're just doing this problem and not even noticing that over there, will just go, well, I'm just going to take the square root. And then they're immediately going to write down the square root. And they're not even going to ask themselves whether or not you're supposed to write down the plus or minus. So they don't actually do it. And they don't get stuck because you were supposed to go, oh, take plus and minus, except don't do the minus, and then just write down the positive, which if you were just kind of breezing through the problem, you're never done. So if you completely ignore that, you're going to get the right answer. All right, couple last ones. Okay, I can almost know how this is going to come out. The opposite of plus 8 is minus 8. X minus 8 equals y. Okay, the opposite of dividing by 2, I got to get rid of that. It means I'm going to have to multiply by 2. Alright, you can almost, on these short ones, you can almost say it to yourself, oh, I'm dividing by 2 there. The opposite, I know the answer. So if you want to skip straight to the answer, but you'd have to be sure. They're just the two things that cancel each other out, multiply and divide, square and square root, add and subtract. So that just do the opposite of what you did before.